Litecoin, Ethereum, cash, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, cash.
Smoking on that crippy got me cliff high. Steam pot, heat rock, slingshot. Surfing through the city while I'm chilling.
Yeah, it's your boy Crypto Blood. Hope everyone's doing well this afternoon. Off the Chain episode 42. We got my man Trekk on with us tonight. We got some real heavy conversations and topics we're going to cover tonight. I think I am streaming on Periscope right now. I got to find the link, man. This is my first stream on Periscope. We'll try to make that happen as well. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. We'll get started here in a second. How?
Stacking my coin, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, cash, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, cash.
I'm old school, Beretta, eye on the sparrow. I told you, make moves, nigga, stack the dinero. Kings make the world go round, you better get some. I don't know about you, me, I'm a prince. I'm using digital circuitry to circulate.
We talk about defunding the police. This is a crazy, damning article out of Cointelegraph about Big Brother. And we already knew this, I'm sure most of you did. But this article really exposes how much Big Brother is on to your crypto wallets. It's big. It's a big problem, people. And I've got a solution for you, a couple of them. But we're going to go over that tonight as well. And also growing trend in cities. They're ditching the police for community-led models. At least they're attempting to. Is that a good thing? Want to have that discussion tonight. Make sure you guys call in 669-900-6833. The code is 169-861-119. Hit us up.
The swags of a new flavor. I'm after a new layer of profits a lot. Creative guys wild like the West, and I'm like Elliot Ness. I keep my drive locked in, I keep it close to the chest. Ready for the right moment to rock on to the next. Cause if these markets don't close, then my pockets won't rest. Yo, God got a vision of riches. My FOMO got the fearful in stitches. Hoolie up, yeah, cause we in the trenches. Crypto is my pension, dividends is my mission, and I'm inspired to try on digits. Get it.
Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Okay. Ready?
Fucking thing sucks. We'll do it live.
What's good, my people? Hope everyone's doing well. Shout out to all my mods I got in the room. Thank you, Big O, for checking in. Got a couple other mods in there as well. We had to kind of beef up on the mods, man. Last week was horrible. We had the KKK come through and try to distract us, but thanks to Big O and a couple of other people for helping in on that. It's kind of hard for me to maintain that while doing a live stream, but again, hope everyone's doing well today. And it's been a long time since my brother Trekk has been on. We got to see and catch up with this guy. As you guys may know or may not, he's part of your National Guard, right?
Yeah, bro.
Trekk, what's good, man? You've been on duty. Tell us a little bit about what's going on, man.
So let me preface some things, right? One, I'm not speaking as like, oh, I know what's going on at high level meetings. I'm not speaking as I'm telling you what every other soldier is thinking.
Yeah.
Definitely not that. What I will say is me speaking is what I see, what I understand. Bruh, like there's like people, how I'm gonna say this. Don't think that just because, you know, the person is quote in uniform, they not having the same level of worry as like the quote non-military person. Like, trust me, people talking about like, all right, like how's this thing work out, like constitutionally speaking? Like, what's the legality of this? Like, if we actually do have to roll in on someplace, like, what's the rules of engagement, so to speak? And from how things were, and I'm specifically talking to Baltimore, I don't know what none of the other states, none of the other units out there and other operations did. I don't know what they got as briefs. I don't know none of that. I know Baltimore, and I know my particular interactions. And it was definitely one of those, like, we had a couple of days, a couple of sprints, like, so days back to back where it's like, all right, we're on call. And I will say Baltimore, compared to other parts of the states, did not reach the level that other cities reached. For some of the stuff I seen video wise and like all public info stuff I'm talking about right now. So you saw it on Twitter, you saw it on IG, you saw it on whatever other thing. I know somebody who was using World Star Hip Hop to look at like what was going on in different cities.
I know a few people like that myself, brother.
And World Star had a bunch of stuff that I wasn't seeing on Twitter or IG.
Okay.
But the point being is that, like, so if you don't know anything in regards to Baltimore, we had the Baltimore riots 5 years ago. I was on that particular, let's call it excursion. When you're in the military and like when you do like downrange deployments, which means like you go outside of the US, you go into other regions, especially when you go into like hot areas where it's like, okay, you got to have your, you got to walk armed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different thing when you got to come back home and to be like, okay, now I got to police like my people. And when I say my people, I mean it as like my fellow Americans. It's a different thing, bro. And I personally am not, quote, a fan of dealing with stateside engagements, even though like that is what the National Guard at the state level is like, was actually created for, like the state level militia to deal with state things.
Yeah.
We get used in a kind of different capacity right now. We get used in a very, very expansive capacity that like a lot of folks outside of the military don't even understand, like how things have changed since Bush 2. But my point being is, don't think because somebody is in uniform, they not having the same concerns. Like,
so what can you speak on? What were you seeing out there as you were on deployment? And were you actually out on the streets or were you just on standby?
So for our particular situation, we were on standby.
Okay.
Now, but we were also told how we were functioning is like, you're just supporting law enforcement, as in, hey, help keep breakage if we end up having to go anywhere. And compared to it was I will also say it was way, way better organized and compared to how Baltimore 5 years ago went, bro. Like Baltimore 5 years ago was just it. And again, I wasn't in none of the higher up meetings. Everything was like, all right, here's what you got to do, go do. But this go around, it was a lot more precautionary of like, hey, we're not just going to throw a military element out in the public and then be like, go police over there, go like clear that corner. Like there was none of that, just like moving bodies of people around, which to me was a good thing because like how it was going out the first time, there was a lot of lessons learned from the first go around in regards to the political folks within Baltimore, within the governor's office and stuff, and then even within the military side of it, like lessons learned for the real. And then for the people of Baltimore, lessons learned. Like, yes, we had our eruption of like, all right, bump it, it's just going to be full on violence as far as like things being destroyed. But this go around, it was like, yes, we're mad. Yes, we want to show that, we don't want this shit going on anymore. But it didn't like, you have no idea how thankful I am that it didn't blow over the way it did in other cities, in other states. And like, for example, DC, not a lot of folks understand, like when Trump said what he said, and I found out about this like later on, and because I was listening to Pump in one of his interviews, and he was talking to a special forces or ex-special force dude who now like does the reporting stuff and all that. I forgot the guy's name at the moment, but he was breaking down some things that like I kind of heard one or two things about during that like whole 2-week protest period, but I didn't know. And he said some stuff where I was like, okay, now that makes sense for what I was hearing where I was. And like, you know, at the lower level that I'm at and how it was coming down towards me.
What was he saying?
So basically, the 82nd got activated. If you don't know, like, the American military is broken up into three, as far as the Army umbrella goes, we're broken up into three things. So you have the National Guard, which is primarily controlled by the state. So that's the governor's discretion. Then you have the reserve, which is a federal element of the Army that is located in the state, right? And then you have active Army. So that's like when you go to like a Fort Hood, a Fort Detrick, a Fort Meade, like Fort Drum. That's active Army. Those are the full-time, everyday people. Guard and Reserve are primarily what they call end-day soldiers, which is like, you know, we make the joke of the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. And I'm gonna tell y'all, if you signing up, it don't go like that no more. There's no more 2 weeks during the summer. So, but that's a whole nother conversation. My point is that the 82nd Airborne got activated. And
that's part of which group of the three?
That's active. Army. That's the full-time folks.
Wow.
And
okay.
Even in that group of folks, people were still asking the question, like, if we actually get like put out on the streets, is this constitutional? Is this legal? Like, so this is why I say, like, don't think just because somebody's in uniform, you know, the COC says what he says, and all of a sudden, like, everyone just snaps to, and it's like no one's questioning it, and they're gonna do some like so what is the name of the thing? So after, what was it? The situation with the Nazis and what the regular soldiers and like outside of like lieutenants and officers, so that like the M-Day soldiers, they would be like, oh, I was just following orders, right? You had the regular soldier, you had the officer side folks being like, yo, this is like a real situation we're in, and we really didn't see being pulled into it to this level. But they fall directly under the president. So when he say go, they go. But there's still that whole thing of like, hey, I guess you want to show your, like, beat your chest and all that fun stuff. But like, you crossing some real like gray lines that I will definitely say there are soldiers on the officer side and the enlisted side that are like, yo, like, this is crossing lines that I just didn't sign up for.
Do you agree with that move to bring in the active boys in there?
I mean,
got a lot of chaos out there. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I'm just wondering, if you were commander-in-chief, would you have made that move?
Bro, like, there's a lot of different conversations that happen at his level that I can't even begin to fathom. And there's also X amount of conversations that happen at the state level. Hence why you have National Guard. Like, most people don't understand, there are more National Guard and Reserve soldiers than there are active Army soldiers, like body count wise. Okay. So,
exercise that first before you go to that level is kind of what you're saying.
And you got to understand, the application of them is a very, very different level. They're not trained to police a garrison style environment. Like, that's not what they do, bro.
You're saying the active guys.
Yeah. No, well, I'm saying them in particular. They are not trained to do policing or policing activities and duties in a garrison environment. When I say garrison environment, garrison means being stateside. That's what garrison means. And so
Monty Henry said Insurrection Act of 1806, 07, I mean. You know anything about that?
I don't know that one offhand. I know like this is the second time that they've been activated with inside the US. I know that history wise in regards to them, but like, it's a very different thing when you activate when it is a very different legal situation and application situation when you put a standing active army unit in the US on US soil and say, go do this. Bro, the ramifications on it and just the leeway as far as like how it works out for what the person who is the president at that moment who calls it can do, it's real wide, bro. It's like ridiculously wide. And to me, when I was hearing the stuff afterwards in the interview, like I said, that Pomp had, it's like, you know, it just goes to show like not everybody is on this whole let's just go out there and police and knock heads and like get people back in order. Like people think, people have questions. It's not just like the drone mentality. And I'm not saying that there aren't some folks out there in uniform who just like, you know, jump to, but the cooler, calmer heads did deploy within this situation. And so luckily they didn't get put out on the streets. We didn't have to like go like in regards to Baltimore. Like I said, I know in the other cities and state, like one city, I forgot where it was, law enforcement or a guard person got shot or they shot somebody. I didn't look into all the details of that one. And it was just like, bro, like I said, it's a different thing when you downrange and you like, all right, we about to go into this location. You could probably end up getting into a firefight, or you could probably end up having an IED. Like, it's a different thing, bro. Like,
yeah.
I can't necessarily explain it for when you come back home and then they're like, hey, so we're gonna go, you know, like stand over there on this and this corner and make sure that we can like separate the masses of people. But then like right before you go out, they're like, hey, so we found out that there might be Molotov cocktails in the crowd, so watch out. Wait, what?
You may have some cats kind of go back to their war tactics and start shooting down range and stuff, man. It feels like the National Guard is more apt and prepared for those types of situations, you know? So seems like a dangerous mixture to add the active guys on the front line for that type of thing when you have a whole bunch of, you know, guys like you ready to do that and are trained for that situation.
I'm gonna say the guard element is, I would argue, more molded towards policing than the active element. Again, their application and their function is X amount different than ours, and the guard, like, granted, we have different sections as far as like, well, you know, who's in a transportation company or who's in a MP, which is like military police. We're still more malleable in comparison to what I would argue is like putting out a full active element, like a battalion size. And battalion size, you talking like, depending on battalion, you're definitely talking like 300 to 500 bodies.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get started tonight, man. Thanks for joining in. If you guys don't know, Trekk is on Twitter. He still ain't got his YouTube channel going. That's a whole nother subject. We not gonna touch on tonight, man. But but check out my man Trekk on Twitter, Smart Trekking. That's with 2 Ks. Check him out on Twitter. He's always pretty vocal about various things going on in crypto and right now, you know what we got going on with this whole, I don't even know what you want to call this, man. What is this movement? I mean, is it an awakening? That's kind of what I posed the question last week when we had King on, King Bless. Is this an awakening to you?
Is this an awakening? I put out a meme the other day and I said, Black Lives Matter movement is the new NAACP.
Yeah, I ain't really with the, listen, I'm not with the Black Lives movement as a group, but the Black Lives Matter, that saying, I agree with. I think they've been the group been co-opted and it's a whole nother agenda there, in my opinion. But yes, Black lives do matter. And for me, what that means is that we've been looked over for so long, from the injustice in the community when it comes to how we deal with how the cops deal with us, from economic injustice, from being excluded from loans and getting into the VC world. And so Black lives in that manner, that's what I look at it when I hear people say Black Lives Matter. I'm not with the BLM movement though, like at all, bro.
I'm definitely not with the movement and some of the things that I see how they move. Again, I go with you on that same thing of like the statement of Black Lives Matter. Yeah, for all the reasons you said, totally on board with that. But the reason why I put that meme out was, in this whole thing, and I've had this conversation with you X amount of times on, like, I just look at it all as a variation of marketing. And so what I've been really pushing on in regards to what I do with the company. So my company side stuff, it's the storytelling, branding stuff. And I've been on this real like heavy audiobooks thing, #audiobooks and build, right? And I've been reading more into psychology, more into the whole marketing thing, but looking at the earlier folks in regards to social psychology and sociology. Mm-hmm. There's a dude by the name of Edward Bernays. Mm-hmm. Edward Bernays is the guy who came up with the campaign of Torches of Freedom. If you know anything about how women smoking in public was taken back before, like World War I, I think. So this is like before 1920s. This dude came up with the campaign to make it socially acceptable for women to smoke cigarettes. And like, when you read how he actually like put the campaign together, moved the different elements, mm-hmm. is really astonishing. And when you look at what's going on now in regards to like, we have a whole different like light years ahead of technology that allows you to be able to move people's opinion based on invested interest, emotion, or fear, right? And fear is that emotion. And this dude was figuring that out like damn near 100 years ago. And he's a dude who actually started the public relations department for the government. And based on the things that I see now and looking like how the news cycle goes and looking at how Twitter moves now, what I see in my feed, IG, in my mind, what I'm seeing or what I'm labeling this as is it's a marketing campaign that is pulling and pushing people. In part, it's a distraction thing, but in a bigger thing, like, again, I think that the Black Lives Matter movement will end up being the new NAACP. So how, you talk about what are we really awakening? What is woke really meaning right now, right?
For me, woke is, I'm looking at it, I'm an entrepreneur. I look at it from that standpoint. It's just blowing me back to see how many, whether or not it's a fad, just to see an Amazon have Black Lives Matter on their homepage, just to see Uber Eats saying support, $0 fees for Black-owned businesses. You order from them, just to see Sephora say I'm going to have 15% of the shelving allocated to minority Black businesses. That to me is powerful, man. And that to me, go ahead. And I want to get to this caller. Caller, just hold 1 second. I'm going to let Trekk finish his thought.
Let me throw it to you this way. It costs me nothing to do, well, it is a cost, but the bigger thing in regards to that is you are marketing from a standpoint of doing inclusion. They jumped in on the bandwagon because why? Black people are known not to save. We are spenders in regards to the economic stance that companies look at our population at.
Yeah.
You're looked at as spenders.
Right.
So if I'm like, yo, I'm down with, you know, the Black Lives Matter thing, Black Lives Matter. Oh, if you a business, you can do blah, blah. What am I doing? I'm doing customer acquisition and customer retention for the black spender, because I know they don't save, they spend.
Right.
In my mind, all I heard just now, and for the other things I've seen, was you're just making sure that you secure the bag for the long run. Because if you don't say nothing now, when you make the quote good or bad list, as far as like, oh, you remember who, like, that company didn't support X, Y, and Z? Like, in my mind, honestly, I look at some of the stuff going on with like the public shaming of celebrities and the companies, and it's just like, yo, if they wasn't fucking with us before, why are we worried about them now?
I feel you. But what about the Sephora thing? Like, that's a good move, because that's on the other side. That's not it's not on the consumer side and trying to reel in more black business for dollars, you know, spending dollars on that side. Is more so on the wealth building side, where they're allowing companies to have a opportunity, black companies to have opportunity at the table. And that's something we haven't seen. And that's where the wealth, that's how you build wealth, you know, to be included in on that side of the equation, in my opinion.
I'm not saying that it won't help some people, but that is a brand marketing strategy, bro.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. I'm not taking that away from you. Let's get this call in real quick. Call on the line. It's your boy Crypto Blood and Trekk tonight. Who's calling in?
Yo, CB, I'm going to go with the name of Bob because I have no idea how this conversation is going to go. And it's Trekk, right? I actually like how he's framing this conversation. See, I'm an Oregonian, and Seattle, Washington is just like right up the road, like 4 hours away from me.
Okay.
And this whole Antifa taking over 6 blocks thing, 6 blocks, has really thrown me for a loop. Like, it's taken me it's taken me 2 days to process this. Like, I had to process. Man. Well, my cousin's a cop. I was talking to him just like a day ago, and I'm in a small town, and people are flipping off cops in this small town, and they're kind of acting out, which, okay. But the thing is I'm trying to frame this thing in Seattle properly. And I think to do it properly, I believe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, which is why I'm calling in, I believe that it is, it's basically homeowners, property owners versus squatters' rights. Because in Seattle, they've taken over 6 blocks. They say, hey, this is a whatever zone, autonomous zone. And now they're arguing over who has the right to have the fire department, the police department. So, I mean, I see it squatters' rights versus property rights. I mean, tell me where I'm wrong, because this is just nuts.
I mean, Bob, this is one of the topics that we're going to be talking about this evening. This whole Shaz, I think it's called, right? The autonomous zone.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't.
But this is how I'm framing it. So if we want to stop this, we just go to Nancy Pelosi's house with 1,000 people, have an autonomous zone in her front yard, and go hashtag occupy the mansions. I mean, how fast will this stop?
There you go.
I mean, I'm not
Bob, let me ask you this. From you said your relative.
I'm an Oregonian.
Yeah, but your relative is down in Seattle, right?
No. Small town in Oregon. So I'm 75 miles away from Portland, Oregon.
Okay,
small town.
What type of ethnic? What do you see in? Where are you hearing about this Chaz autonomous zone? Is it mostly white people? Is it a mixture? Blacks?
Listen, I have about the same access you do. I watched a YouTube video and they're talking about it. They're selling it like a block party.
Yeah.
But I've listened to the lady, it's an African-American woman who I think is the police chief, talk about it and saying, hey, there's things going on here. We've got calls. We can't get to people. Okay. I don't really know. I just assumed a lot of it's propaganda and bullshit. But I'm saying, I grew up in the martial arts, so I am saying it is, property owners versus squatters' rights. And that seems to be how I'm going to frame this going forward, because I don't have any other thoughts on the thing. It's just nuts.
What do you think? Go ahead, Trekk. Go ahead.
All right, let me ask you a question in regards to this thing of property owners versus squatters' rights. How far back are we looking? If we're framing it in property owners versus squatters' rights, how far back are you looking at property owners' rights?
I don't know. I'm thinking we've just possibly lost 150 years of property rights. I mean, if anybody can show up to your front door and say this is an autonomous zone, I mean, people, show up with guns, or because in this small town, they thought Antifa was going to roll by and everybody grabbed their guns. I mean, we can open carry in Oregon. Like, that's not illegal. They actually did that. The community grabbed their guns. And I heard one person who did that acted a little bit inappropriately, but it was a non-issue because Antifa hides how my cousin explained it. He said, well, Antifa, they have like a parade. They hide amongst the people, and then they, start mayhem. Yep. Well, there were no people. This town is so small, we're talking 10, 15,000 people. He said they shut down a street for 30 seconds. There was nobody there. It would have just been Antifa. They rolled out of town, or they didn't get here. I'm a little fuzzy because I wasn't involved. I just got, this quick combo with my cousin. So
one is, if you want to say property rights, the original people of that region of the U.S. are not the people who are there now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to say property rights, whose property rights are you really looking to acknowledge? One.
Well, yeah.
Two, Antifa, in regards to like that little scenario that you break down, that's like the whole counterintelligence thing, like that whole blend in, like, bro, some of the stuff that I was seeing through the different SoMe platforms, it was just little things that you could see in regards to like how they mark each other, how they move. You could see what the counter was in regards to the police. It's definitely trained tactic stuff being done in regards to the fake protester people, the Antifa people, and then just seeing what like the law enforcement side is doing. It's just a lot of like, you guys are playing out of the same book but in different chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what it comes off to me like. In regards to what they're doing, bro, like, they can only go but so far with that. And I'll give you
but it seems to be spreading though. We're seeing other cities starting to try to do these autonomous zones. And do you think that they're going to gain some traction?
Here's the thing, right? We can have the idea that we want to change things at the ground level, right? But most people will only be willing to change things at a ground level when it does not come at personal harm or loss. That is most people. And I will probably say at least 90 to 98% of the people who are in that movement are not about losing their life. At some point, if it does, quote, expand out, like where it's like, okay, we're noticing that this is like more than just, a couple 100 people in that one city, and now it's like in major cities.
That's when the active guys come in, right? That's that 82.
The reaction ain't gonna be a good thing, bro, like at all.
But it's all about optics, though. So if they get to that, if they get to kinetic interaction with these protesters and these Chaz individuals, that's not good optically. I don't know. Do they want to go that far with it? That's my question.
No, because I would imagine that the people who like do more of the pushing the buttons, they're not out there like that. And then like, you know, as a person who is an elected official, as a person who is, you know, the governor or the mayor of a town, like, you're going to have to look at this situation and say, how do I hold sovereignty of my area? If I have no other means, because what the scenario looks like in regards to the optics, because Antifa plays at building energy momentum using negative things. Like, when I tell you, you got to look into this book called Crystallizing Public Opinion. It's the dude that I said, Edward Bernays, Sigmund Freud's nephew.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, but in regards to understanding how people are driven by emotion, that's what they do, though. And one of the things that I always argue about, and Bob, I'm sorry to like run left with your thing, but Americans have a real bad issue of getting caught up in symbolism. Like we use symbolism to inspire people. We use symbolism to deter people, right? And when you combine symbolism into things that would like connect on an emotional level with people, the death of someone, and watching it happen in real time, and then having the video play over and over again, and then say, hey, let's start connecting it with all these other things. Like, guess what? You basically like set off the powder keg. Like, and now it's the whole thing of, well, how do you direct the energy? How do you direct the people's attention? And that's what I think is going on in situations right now, where it's how do we direct the people's attention? Like, we went from 2 weeks ago having COVID like videos all over the place where people would be. I seen a video where these people chased a lady out of a supermarket, dog.
Yeah,
because
I saw
she
that
didn't
too.
have on a mask.
I saw that too.
Grown people.
Yeah.
Like, that's that energy thing going on right there about
But, you know, Bob, I want to ask you something really quickly regarding just this situation from I'm going to assume you're a white male. From your perspective, your lens, I always like to just ping, you know, white people that I know, colleagues and stuff that I know, friends I know. What is your assessment of this whole George Floyd thing and how it's kind of turned into something much bigger? Just kind of give me your assessment on the whole situation.
Okay, well, that's pretty simple. People dying is always terrible. We'll start there.
Okay.
So I'm not down with, you know, I heard that, hey, they're not doing no-knock raids. I actually thought there was a law that they had to do that, you know, and I thought that I grew up in the martial arts, right? So, and some of my friends were cops, small town, knew the sheriff kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when somebody says, hey, we're not going to use chokeholds, well, I thought those went away 20 years ago. No joke, you know, because they used to use a sleeper hold to put people out because they didn't have tasers. So they used blood chokes, which means you cut off the blood to their brain till they pass out.
Right.
If you hold it too long, they die.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like an option. Your brain needs blood or you die. Okay. The tactic I saw was a blood choke to the neck with his knee. And it looked reasonably purposeful. I got to say, if you were, you know, it's not WWE. If you're a UFC fighter, somebody would have pulled you off because you could have killed the guy, and they know that. Like, oh, he's unconscious. We, you know, resuscitate. Okay, well, it was deliberate, but how people are reacting to it, you know, at what point is that a crime? When's the reaction to crime? I mean, they're burning shit down. I live 75 miles from Portland. It's a little crazy. You know, I'm just not, I mean, I was mad a few weeks ago before the protest. Mm-hmm. You know, I wanted to take a slingshot. That was my desire. You know, it's like, I don't have guns, but hey, let's grab a slingshot and, you know, attack the Capitol building. Now everybody's throwing rocks at everything. And, everybody's crazy and fireworks and everybody's not.
Let me ask you this again from a different perspective, okay? Because we're black, so we're going to have a certain view on things. Do you think police brutality is an issue in America, starting with blacks and then going up to just citizens in general?
Well, I live in...
And maybe you don't have a right answer if you don't live in an area where you can assess and see how they treat maybe a black male versus, someone else.
All right. So I actually live really close to a Native American reservation.
Okay.
I actually lived outside of one. There's a lot of poverty in those areas. However, when I lived in Portland, the cops weren't necessarily... They were decent to me. Would that have been different if I were African American? Maybe. I don't have any way of judging that because I can't say, I can't say.
Right.
I think police brutality is an issue. However, if we take all the police's biggest F-ups and we decide to show them on TV one after another, it's going to look pretty bad. So, yes, I think it's an issue. Yes, I think it's wrong. Yes, I don't agree. I think I watched your video yesterday on, what was it, Twitter? You posted something, said we're in hell. There's a water, this guy was selling water bottles.
Oh, yeah, I was quoting a Jay-Z line. I just kind of mixed it up a little bit. But, yeah, I was just literally playing that video clip as you were talking about the guy.
Water. So anyway, that was atrocious. I watched one, I think it was down in Texas. I think it was either a 12-year-old African American boy, 12 to 14, and the cop was UFC fighting him. Like he pushed him to the ground and he kept swatting at his face. I'm like, dude, why are you doing that? I'm willing to go one. I don't know if it's crazy, but I'd like to demilitarize the police. In a sense, I would like them not to have. I would like them not to have SUVs or Hummers, or like their SWAT raids, and I would like them not to have flashbang grenades, because if they throw them in a child's crib, like I've heard those stories. I would like them not to go in with riot shields into somebody's house and, find out that they went to the wrong house. I would like us to demilitarize the police, not that they shouldn't have body armor. Because I bought my cousin, there's a level 3 body armor plate. It's called AR 500 armor. It only cost me like $85, but he didn't have a front facing plate, so I bought it for him. Like 3 Christmases ago, saying, I think there's going to be civil unrest in this country. You're on the front lines. I'd like you to have this. I was 3 years off, but I'm still glad I got it for him. So that's kind of where my head is in the game.
Gotcha. What do you think about, and this is one of the topics tonight, Bob, is defunding the police? You said demilitarize. Is defunding the police a good and right solution as well? What are your thoughts about defunding the police?
So I've actually worked with mentally ill people. I've spent about 5 or 6 years working with the mentally ill, like a step down from the psych ward. So they're called, after the psych ward in Oregon, that we have group homes. These group homes are called, I can't tell you what the acronym means. It's like ECMU is the acronym. It's a step down. It's a group home. And I worked in one for maybe 3 to 5 years, different group homes. But I actually got attacked by a mentally ill client. Like she literally thought I was the devil. Okay. I called the police. They did a good job. Fortunately, I kept her safe because she was acting out. She wasn't in her right mind. I was able to keep her safe, and I'm actually a big guy. I'm 6'2.5". Back then I was weighing in at 215 pounds, and I'm a martial arts expert. So I had to keep her safe, had to keep myself safe. The police showed up. I told them where she was. I gave them a quick rundown, like, hey, she's here. The door's locked. We're safe. Everything's fine. And they had to help me. Like, I couldn't have dealt with it myself.
Right.
So I've had situations where I've had to call the police. And if they weren't there, I mean, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with a person who's literally out of their mind? They took her out in cuffs. Because sometimes being a big guy, which I am, sometimes you don't think the little things like, oh, she could have swatted at me right there, and they asked me to move back. She attacked me at the end, like she ran for me, but she was already cuffed. So I grabbed a chair and kind of swung around to kind of give us distance so she didn't attack me, which she could only kick me at the time. But you just need the police sometimes. You really do. You need them. And to totally defund the police, how do you deal with that? Because I have a high experience of dealing with the mentally ill.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. When I started hearing, because it's funny, I had to do I'm creating masks now, and I had a one-off order for defund police. I hadn't heard about this movement. This was about a week and a half ago, and I hadn't heard of it. My wife and I were kind of laughing at that. I don't think defunding is necessarily the right route.
I would start with demilitarizing. Demilitarizing.
There you go. That's what I was. Yeah. When you said demilitarizing, I wanted to get your feedback on defunding. But Bob, man,
because I mean, if you want me to go into a few more stories of like, because my ex-wife, mental health therapist, like, so if somebody was crazy and they had to go into the psych ward, like she'd evaluate them. Like that was one of her jobs. But
a lot of the psych wards have been defunded, so that's a whole nother issue that now cops are dealing with. And it's just weird, man. It can get complicated. It's a complicated situation and topic, but I appreciate the call in, Bob. Definitely call in again, brother.
All right, have a nice day. Bye.
Yep, you too. All right. Yeah, man. So let's get into the topics for tonight, man. Where do you want to start, Trekk? We got a few. I pinned them at the top in the comment section, guys. If you want to follow along, so that you guys know, can kind of read up on what we're talking about this evening. So Trekk, man, where are we starting tonight?
I want to start with throwing Coinbase under the bus.
Yeah, dog. Let's do that.
I have Coinbase 100 CB. Bro, like,
this is big.
It's funny, like X amount of the influencers are just like, this is kind of expected. Like we saw how they were moving. But it's also kind of more annoying on the end of like, a lot of the influencer folks who were trying to help educate and on-ramp people were pushing people towards Coinbase because Coinbase had like one of the most streamlined processes for you to get in, get you whatever crypto, and then like go about your business. And this is one of those things where it's just like, like in my mind, what like was it when they first started knocking on your door? Did you go, hey, down the road, we should figure out how we can collateralize on this anonymous data that doesn't have any PII in it, but it's about all of our users. Like at some point there was a business manager who was like, hey, we could sell them the data instead of just giving it to them. Somebody said that, and then somebody agreed, and then somebody worked out the formula. Like, but
I don't believe that the data is just simply, anonymized, and that's it's data that the public could know about the transactions themselves. I do not believe that one bit. So if you guys are following along, Cointelegraph did an article. I think it was actually, looks like it was done today. So this article, basically, I gotta read some of this for you guys because this is pretty deep. And it's not, like I said, you shouldn't be surprised, but what it should do is make you guys start being more diligent about mixing your coins, about being, because we can do it. That's the beautiful thing about cryptos. They can't stop us from mixing coins and keeping our privacy. Make sure you start doing that. We're going to go over that as well after I get done reading a little bit from this article. So basically, this anonymous source indicated that crypto surveillance tactics go all the way back to Bitcoin's earliest days. They said that these practices became much broader, a broader effort after the much maligned Mt. Gox incident. So the source says, we've worked with crypto exchanges, Bitcoin ATM companies, general crypto service providers, and more. They all engage in surveillance practices. They have to. They have no choice, and they don't have a choice, because when it comes to keeping tabs on users, they said that the U.S. government's favored methodologies is called a suspicious activity report, or SAR. That's already used in banks, right? You start depositing or trying to withdraw certain amounts of money, the banks will fill out a SAR report. That's standard protocol. But this guy is saying that in cryptos, there appears to operate under different standards with this SAR report. They're saying that in traditional institutions, a transaction needs to meet certain criteria in most cases to be deemed suspicious. That's not really the case with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, though. As far as the government is concerned, the threshold of suspicious, quote unquote, is met as soon as a cryptocurrency is involved. So there is no threshold. So if you filled out KYC, AML at any of these exchanges or any of these other crypto services, they are most likely reporting you're in the database, you're known, and you're being watched. He goes on to say here, custodial entities are legally required to file SARs for basically any suspicious crypto related transactions above 5,000, regardless of the user's other activity. Many file for even lower amounts. The entities are legally barred from revealing this reporting data to its users or any member of the public. He says, we cannot tell you we've filed a report on you, ever. And entities cannot refuse to comply with these reporting tactics, because if they do, they will lose their license, which allows them to operate. They may even face fines or even imprisonment. He goes on to say that, this crypto data says that the reports are shared with the FinCEN, with IRS, the FBI, and various other law enforcement agencies. He says it runs the whole gamut, and it's not just in the U.S. They say China, Japan, Russia, UK, and others, I'm sure. It depends on where you're based, but nearly every world power has legally mandated methods of reviewing centralized user data. And I'm just going to read this last quote here. And the source goes on to reveal that the information requested is fairly robust. And this is what I was saying, Trekk. They're not just, how Coinbase tried to spin this is some bull. You know it, I know it, everyone should know it. Article says that agencies want to know the following: what coins you hold, how often you trade them, the initial source of any funds used to buy cryptos, the amount of profit you've taken with certain within a certain period of time. They can and do ask for it all. They also keep track of where your coins are sent once they leave centralized custody. So if you're keeping your coins in cold storage, there's a good chance that some office within one of the more world governments is aware of the wallet address, no matter where you move them. If a centralized exchange has ever held those coins, then they can track you. Thoughts?
Here's the thing that gets me. There's a couple of things that get me about this shit, but how can you give here's the account, here's how much times they use it, here's how much profit they made, right? That sound like that went to the IRS, and that sound like that could have also went to some crime unit, right? There's no way you would not ask for the name that the account is attached to.
Come on, dog. There's no point. There's no point in doing it if you don't get the name.
Because it's like it just don't make no sense at all. All right. And as far as Coinbase goes, that I have been pushing out, and I don't push stuff over on the Twitter side like that, but I do heavy on the LinkedIn side. In this thing of storytelling and branding for what a brand narrative is, for what your touch points and how the public sees your brand as a company in this space, in the blockchain crypto space, but it applies across the board to any company or personality brand, right? If you are not transparent and you are not showing empathy, you will lose trust. I say T plus E equals T, right? What Coinbase just did right now, in my mind, if you're quick enough in regards to marketing and pushing out something, you could have a DEX, you could have any one of the other exchanges in the space be like, yo, we don't do that. And it just be a straight campaign. Like, I have a whole nother thing about memes right now, where I think memes going into this decade are going to be a real big key part in brand messaging. And this would be an example. Here's what my company is, whatever the image is, boom, this is what Coinbase does. And it could be a whole, a matter of fact, it was like what Wendy's was doing with, who was that? KFC? There was a whole Twitter thing that I think that was 2018, where they had somebody who was doing the whole tweeting thing and pushing out memes for them.
No,
and
I think you're talking about Popeyes, right?
Was it Popeyes? It was Wendy's and somebody, and the Wendy's account was killing it, bro.
Yeah, they
were.
The
views, the likes, the retweets was going crazy. But my point right now is, for what they just did, and this exposure that they have of not being transparent, and then for how people are feeling about what the government is doing. And we already know the crypto community, we already on some well, we don't trust centralized things for a reason. Now you just went and validated all of what we thought we learned back in 2008 through now, and then you just did this. For the everyday person in this community, I would argue you definitely lost cool points. A lot of folks are going to definitely look to figure out how to really distance themselves. Some of us already started this shit more than a year or two ago to distance from Coinbase. Some of us still mess with it. But more people are going to start looking at Coinbase skeptically, because it's well, I want to have some kind of financial asset that I should be able to control for myself. And I shouldn't have to worry about, quote, Big Brother at some point coming in to be hey, you got to give me my cut. Hey, you got to give me all of it. Hey, you don't really own that. That's how my mind plays it out. If you're talking that you gave information to the IRS, that's definitely going to be on taxes on you. We got this whole situation now where the government is giving people money, one step removed in their bank accounts. So now if I put together that you get this amount of the universal income, I also know that you have X amount of crypto. Mm-hmm. Guess who's not getting that check anymore? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I feel you. Let's get these callers, because we got a couple of them here. We had one just drop off, but let's get to the first one here. Call on the line. It's your boy Crypto Blood and Trekk tonight. Who's calling in?
Hey guys, this is Crypto Clay.
Hey Clay, what's going on, brother?
Not too much, man. I saw that Trekk was on a show, and I haven't talked to him in a while, so I thought I'd pop in and see what the conversation was about. I just heard you guys talking about the whole Coinbase fiasco, so I thought it was interesting.
What are your thoughts on not only Coinbase, but looks like this anonymous tipper to I think Cointelegraph basically said it's a whole operation. The surveillance is on another level. How do you feel about that? What are you doing to combat that?
So here's the way I see it. We first learned about this back in, I think, either 2015 or 2016. Coinbase has been around for a long time, and they've been a really good way of onboarding people into the crypto space because they make it really simple for the basic user to get in and get their feet wet. And that's kind of how I view Coinbase. It's like that very entry-level platform that allows anybody to access the cryptocurrency market, right? But once you become more of that intermediary user or that, somebody that's a little bit more experienced in the space, you have all of these other platforms that you can access and you become accustomed to them. And it just becomes easier over time. But as far as Coinbase goes, like I would never use them for all of my transactions because I've been in this space too long to know that a platform like that is going to be very centralized and watched by, multiple firms, not just the United States government, but they also can sell that data to whoever they want.
That's right.
But I still think it's a necessary evil to have platforms like that, though. At some point, you have to realize that without that centralized platform there, we're not going to be able to onboard as many people into the community. It's just not going to happen. They're going to take one look at decentralized exchanges and be like, this is too much for me. So I completely agree with what you guys are saying that it's not very right for them to do that, especially in this space where everything is all about having control of our own keys and being our own banks and setting up that personal privacy, right? But we also have to be realistic. Like we're not going to be able to do this like by ourselves as a community. We need some of those centralized entities to step in and help.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. So do you think we should hold them accountable, though? Do you think and I mean, it's happening. It is happening. I actually reported on this earlier this week. It looks like more than 22,000 Bitcoins were withdrawn from Coinbase, which in nominal terms, in US dollar terms, that's the most that has ever been withdrawn after this initial report came out. That's 214 million. Back in 2017, July 28th, 2017, they did have outflows of 22,500 Bitcoin, but the price of Bitcoin was much lower at 2,700. So that was only like 63 million. So in real dollars, this is the biggest exodus we've seen from Coinbase from this information being revealed. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing. I just hope that people understand the responsibility that they're taking on. I definitely think that that's a step in the right direction, and I hope that people start using decentralized exchanges more. We need more liquidity on those, right? But yes. At the same time, I just hope that they're responsible with those funds because a lot of people that are noobs in this space can make really simple mistakes and lose a lot of money. So,
yeah. Well, I think we should, and I'll let Trekk chime in, but I don't want to introduce people in a way where they have training wheels on. I want them to get their feet wet and really understand it, because that's the only way we're going to really accelerate the growth in the right direction. So we can accelerate growth, but what are we giving up for accelerated growth if it's going to be in the wrong direction? It doesn't benefit in the long run. If we're going to have millions of people join Coinbase and expect them to then make that move, I don't think it's going to happen. Trekk, what are your thoughts about that?
So what I will say on that, it's funny you brought that one up too. I said this to somebody the other day in a conversation about how this new wave, this is like, we're in the second decade. Well, second decade will start relatively soon. This is the hump year into the second decade. The new user coming into the second decade doesn't care about the process. They don't care about learning the ins and outs. They just want a 1 or a 0. Does it work or does it not work? Does it meet my need? Does it meet my want? So for those of us who were in the first decade, we had a very, very different environment in regards to the early founding part of it. Amount of things are kind of established. And the newer folks coming in now, for them, considering how far things have gone in regards to wallets and atomic swaps and what you can do with Cash App now. Cash App actually works faster than Coinbase does for acquiring Bitcoin. But the point is that this wave coming in now for the second decade, they're not looking to, pay their dues and learning the importance or the validity of why we have or why we talk about the
private keys and having them, right?
Private keys and like the principles behind like this
whole. So let me interject. Should we just pack up our bags and just leave then? Because then the whole point is it's no point. People are literally walking into. We're setting them up for a bait car. Like we're leaving the keys in the whip. We're parking it on Crenshaw and just getting people.
All right, so let me
left and right.
And
what's the point then, Trekk?
No. It's a caveat to it. They don't want to learn it. They really don't. They just want it to work. They just want it to function. They just want it to meet their needs. And this isn't me talking about like a millennial gen thing, an alpha gen thing. This is in regards to new users, period. Right?
Yeah.
They don't want to learn and go through the rigmarole. They don't.
No, they don't.
But
I understand that.
The situation.
Force them to, though. Force them to.
For what's going to start playing out in the next year, in the next 2 years. I know you paying attention to some of the same folks I'm paying attention to in regards to the economic stuff, the financing stuff.
Yep.
And the projections are not looking good, bro.
No, it's over.
We know that. But the folks who are going to find out the hard way about this crypto thing, you don't want to learn why it's valid for what we've been saying for more than 10 years now. But the situation will force you to learn. And that's how they're going to have to,
right.
Go
ahead,
yeah,
Crypto Clay.
To add to that, yeah, I completely agree with Trekk on that. Like, if you force people to learn immediately as soon as they get their foot in the door, then that's whenever people are going to get wrecked. Like, you want to onboard them slowly so that they can learn the ropes and see, what those private keys are about, so that they can keep their funds safe. Because if you just, do the full water hose, like it's just going to be way too much information way too quickly, and people are going to get wrecked, and then that's going to put a damper on the entire cryptocurrency market, just like we saw in the early 2018.
So let me ask this question. So should we instead of blaming the level or lack thereof of the end user, their level of technical prowess or understanding, should we, instead of blaming them for it, should we point that finger back at us and say we're not doing a good enough job to make it easy enough for a novice to come in without using Coinbase, without using Gemini or any of these other, basically government surveillance systems? Should we be taking that? Should the onus be on us?
Sure.
Okay.
And
go ahead, Clay.
The problem that we see right now is you have projects like Hex or something like that is a complete scam, and they see something like that and they get completely entranced by something like that, and they don't have the clarity to know the difference. And so, yeah, we need to be doing a better job as people in this space that can show people the difference between a scam and a good project.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'll let you finish. I'll let you finish, Trekk. I'm gonna get to the next caller, Clay. Thanks for calling in, Crypto Clay.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
I'll reach out to you on Discord, Clay. So what I will say is this, and I've said this to you before about the whole thing of being in a first-tier country as opposed to a second-tier country. And a third tier country, you have different levels of understanding and appreciations for the systems that are in place for you. In a first tier country, you use Cash App, Apple Pay, Venmo all day, no problem. Try doing that in like friggin' Nibia. Try doing that in CM Rep in oh God, what's the name of the country? Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I said this to you when I did Johannesburg. Like, there were certain things that were just not clicking to me as far as like what I took for granted and thought like everyone knew about. And then I go to Johannesburg and it's like, oh no, we can't do that. Oh no, but then they have other systems in place that we would never have in the States, bro, in regards to their financial stuff. When it comes to the,
let's get to the other caller really quick. They've been holding for a minute here. Caller on the line. It's your boy Crypto Blood and Trekk today. Who's calling in? All good. Who's calling in?
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, who's calling?
Hey, Monty. How you doing?
Monty.
And Trekk. Hey.
What's going on, man?
Hey, you guys are covering some good stuff as usual. I'm glad you took the words right out of my mouth. So, you know, when you talked about the number of withdrawals and the dollar amounts, nominal dollar amounts coming out of Coinbase in 2017 and the current year, that's punishment. That is Coinbase right off the bat.
Yeah.
Look, you know, we can't play with you can't take for granted, you know, that this money is sitting at your disposal if you're Coinbase and now all of your users start getting tired of your stuff and they start withdrawing that money. That speaks for itself, right?
Yeah, I mean if you guys don't know, Coinbase has roughly $1 billion and some change in crypto. So that's about a 20% hit. That's significant in my book.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it is.
Next Proof of Keys Day, I'm telling you, it better like tenfold. Next Proof of Keys Day, better tenfold for the users who's involved in this. Like, seriously.
But you know what's funny is Trace Mayer, even though there was a little bit of a dust up regarding some reference he made at a convention or trade show, he said something about an altcoin or a shitcoin, and some people didn't like it. I think we have to remember, though, Trace Mayer is the proponent of getting our cryptos off of the exchanges, and he's had a low profile lately, but he told us in those uncertain terms, this is what you got to do. Familiarize yourself with Glacier, hardware wallets, whatever you have to do, but get them off the exchanges and make sure you understand why that's important.
But more importantly, Monty, is not only about having your own keys and controlling your funds, but also anonymizing them, making those coins fungible.
Right.
That's the key.
Right.
It's no point of being in crypto, guys, if you don't leverage the whole tech stack, right? The whole point of it. Leverage it all. I'm
glad you pointed that out, because you got the Wasabi wallets who use the coin join, and you got the coin. What is the coin swap service?
Yep.
I've
got one up on the screen now that my man Tim Pound recommended. Tornado.cash.
Really? Okay.
This one's a little bit more. It's a little more. You got to have a little bit more technical understanding of what's going on. It's a little complex because it's weird. So you can check that one out, but you can also check out smartmixer.io. This is a very simple one. You can do Bitcoin or Litecoin. Yeah, Bitcoin or Litecoin. You can scale as far as the pools that you want your funds to circle and circulate through before they get to you. You can do, you can scale it up and down. You can delay the transfer of those coins. And to really mix it up, guys, I suggest that you have the funds coming from the mixer go to more than one address. So they'll tumble it and split it to two separate addresses, and that will make sure it breaks any chain communication between where you're sending it from and to where it's heading. So that's one that I use, smartmixer.io. I'll leave a link in the chat room for you guys to check that one out. But that's important, man.
Well, also before I forget, Europol admitted publicly, somehow, I don't know if it was inadvertent or not, but Europol came out and said, look, this Wasabi wallet and some of the things that you're doing are causing a big problem. You know about that, right?
No, I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, Europol was complaining that that the way we use our privacy tools with the Wasabi wallet in particular was making it very, very difficult. And it looks like they're basically endorsing what we're doing. What we're doing is making a major impact on their efforts at keeping track of what we're doing with our money. So that kind of endorses that we're on the right track. But yeah, more people definitely have to take a look at these mixing services and start experimenting with them.
Yeah, you want to just break the chain of communication, especially I would suggest to completely eliminate that chain analysis.
Right.
Go create a new wallet, fresh wallet, and just move all your funds from all your old wallets and mix them through to that new wallet. Then you're starting a whole new chain.
Did you see that article about chain analysis? It was a real clickbait title. I forgot who had wrote it, but it was a real clickbait title. And the basic thing was like, yeah, we can. Who was it? It was Dash. They said they could track now, and somebody.
Oh yeah,
else.
Right. That's right. Yeah, you're right.
Was really interesting inside of the article when you actually read it, it's just like, wait, you're not actually really like breaking the code. It's just that X amount of the users don't use the privacy function, so that's how you're doing the work. Like,
yeah, I reported on that. Yep. They tried to clickbait it and make it sound like, yeah, they did try to clickbait that.
Yeah.
We had to look through the entire article to make sure before we start panicking.
Yeah, I did see
that.
Yeah, most people aren't using the features. Like I said, we're not leveraging the full stack on these technologies.
Right.
No, they're really new. The problem is that these things are so new that we really need to understand, how much we have, what we have, and how to use it, and then how to promote it. I think one growth area may be combining 2 or 3 mixing services. What do you think about that? Somehow,
I really, at least with smartmixer.io, you don't need to. Now I will say this about Smart Mixer, they will, when you load the page, it'll have the service fee all the way to the right, which is like near 5%. Now that's taking extra, tumbling it through all these stealth pools, which you don't necessarily need to do. I scale it back for just everyday transmissions or TXs. I'll do something around 1.2% service fee, and you can add more anonymity by having the coins go to 2 separate addresses on the output.
Oh, that's good.
So you can scale it down to very low service fee and just have it go through a standard pool of mixing your coins.
Is that equivalent to what CoinJoin is doing with the Wasabi wallet when you mix it for 50 different tumbles or something? I think I forget what they call it, but they recommend you 25 to 50 to get the maximum anonymity.
Yeah, similar to that, right? Because the more you're willing to pay on the pool portion of it, it's going to mix it through more pools. And then they have stealth pools that they'll mix it through. If you scale it all the way to the right, you can really mix it up. But again, if you just keep it, you can mix it through a standard pool and just have your transfer delay up a little bit. That will kind of mix it up as well. That'll catch them off guard if you delay the transfer after the mix. So adding, play around with it. There's a sliding tool. The UX is beautiful. One of the best I've seen. I don't get anything from promoting this. I'm just letting you guys know.
Right. And that's open source. It's all open source, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Can I throw something in real fast?
Absolutely.
I didn't get a chance to chime in on the defunding or not defunding issue. And I just wanted to say, not only do I want to defund, but I want to replace the police departments with an alternative. I think we should have competition in policing services. And I seem to be the only one on.
Are you saying privatize?
Well, yeah, right. I must be the only person on the planet who's willing to say privatize and police in the same sentence or something, because I don't see a whole lot of people who are willing to acknowledge that competition may be the thing that we need to. Yeah, I think so. What do you think about that, Trekk?
Trekk's got the boo-boo face. He's over there like.
Okay.
Oh, that happens. That's okay. I'm ready for the boo-boos.
I think it was Bob who brought it up. So, in the early days, right? I say this too. I'm a history person. I don't know everything, but there's a couple of things that I know. In the early days in New York City, most of the houses and most of the living quarters were made of wood, especially downtown in the Wall Street area. And in those early days, we didn't have a quote city fire department. We had neighborhood departments. So what would happen was, if a fire happened, the person who was watching it from the firehouse, they would run over to the fire hydrant, cover the fire hydrant, and then tell somebody to go get their people from their firehouse. And then they had to have their firehouse come to put out that fire, right? Because there was a payout for you were the firehouse that put it out. Competition is a double-edged sword. Part of the reason why X amount of the early structures in downtown Manhattan burned was because the fire departments for the different neighborhoods were competing with each other, and it got into brawls and just straight out fights. And then you had huge fires that were blocks long. Okay. When people say stuff like, oh, well, let's privatize the police department. First off, I'm gonna be honest. I don't agree with the whole defunding thing. Defunding does not change the statutes and the policies and the training procedures that they are taught and put in place. So if you're talking about just well, let's just wipe out everybody, that don't make no sense. You didn't change what the core issue was. The core issue was not funding. The core issue is training, and the core issue is the statutes that allow them to police the way they do in communities.
Yep.
That's it.
Those are the two core issues. And then the other thing of privatizing, when you say privatizing, now it comes into, well, who bids it out the best? In California, they already doing it where you have fire services that are privatized because of what was going on with the brush fires.
Ambulance as well. That's already been done.
Right. Yeah. And if you didn't pay that service, guess what? When the brush fire happened in your neighborhood area and your house was the one that who didn't pay their bill for that month or whatever, guess what? Your house is gonna burn, and they're gonna go take care of the other houses on the east side of you. So privatizing, it sounds like a great, oh wow, that's gonna work because then it'll make them. But then the other part of it is who's governing that?
Seems like a nightmare. I don't see how you could privatize it and it not cause more issues. My man Grant Rogers in the chat room said, to your point, Monty, he said, replace the police with the police? Question mark?
I saw that. Look, Grant, look. All police aren't the same. I think Trekk made it very, very clear. When you have police officers who understand how to implement the law, because see, the criminal justice system itself leaves a lot to be desired. If I'm a police officer, I have the discretion to apply the laws according to a number of different factors. It can come down to what color you are, what age you are you in Beverly Hills versus Watts? How do I feel today? There's way too much opportunity for discretion. So we need to take a look at the criminal justice system and the laws that are being applied, and take a look and see why is it that there's so much discretion. If me and Crypto Blood do the same crime at the same time, the same hour, blah, 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 I go to jail for 5 or 10 years and he gets off, probation and a slap on the wrist, we need to ask ourselves what's going on there. So I think one of the main fundamentals that Trekk alluded to again has to do with trying to figure out how do you take a look at both of those things, the criminal justice system and the application of the law. But competition should never be a dirty word. We can find examples of cops sitting in their cars, letting houses get broken into, letting fights go on, and just because they want to make a point. That's going on right now.
Yeah,
so, we don't need to have a perfect system.
My whole thing is, for all those liberals, it's a big majority of the defund movement I've seen personally has been from liberals. And I mean, if you're gonna be about that life, you gotta have that firearm to back that. If you're gonna be policing your own neighborhoods or protecting your own properties, now you better be ready to do what you gotta do. And I don't think most of those people are.
What I said before. X amount of people who want to talk about that rah-rah thing. Once it gets to like, oh wait, I could get hurt, or I could die.
Exactly. I can get robbed, and no one comes.
And city folk, there was a move.
Right.
What was that? Oh God, what was this? Okay, so there was a move. I think it was the '60s. It was around the Black Panther period, where when they did the whole march on I think it was the state capitol, the NRA helped back a move that really went towards the whole thing of like no on city possession of firearms. Like if you notice that there's a different culture and mindset for people who are city folks compared to like the suburb rural folks. And there's a definite different mindset between people who are like north, especially like northeast, compared to southern folks when it comes to firearms. It was a real social conditioning campaign. So I remember when New York is a perfect example, right? If you in like New York City and you say something about guns or whatever, people are like, oh no, like, that's a bad element thing. But go up to like Rochester, go up to like Ithaca, go up to like Rome.
Oh, sure.
Like they all about their guns. They don't play that game upstate New York. But yet the city is a whole different mentality. And in part, in my mind, it's been socially conditioned for people who live in cities to not be self-reliant on self-protection.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
That happens.
One thing that Cinny Minnie said in the chat room that really struck a chord with me, he said tickets are how the cities and courts stay in business, it seems.
Yeah, but
and that is an issue.
Oh, yeah.
I think that a lot of these police departments are really just extracting wealth from its citizens instead of protecting them.
Mm-hmm. What about that? Come on.
Yeah, so I think
we need to take a look at that.
Yeah, I think reform has to come in the sense of structurally how they just tax the individual, speeding 5 over the speed limit. Stupid stuff, man. Like, bro, I've never, and you've traveled more than me, Trekk. Have you seen any other country really like tax its citizens either financially or physically like we do in the United States?
So let me, once again, this goes into that whole thing about first tier country, second tier country, and third tier country. I will also point something else out. You know how much money DC lost off of traffic cameras? DC was making like over 2 million plus last year off of traffic cameras. Imagine how much they lost in like the first quarter. I don't know the numbers, but I know somebody out there was counting it. In regards to the whole thing about like, well, the law enforcement taxing, or the city or the state or the province taxing its people in access through law enforcement, it's a different ball game, bro. In some areas, it ain't that the governor or the mayor of a town actually made some rule. Nah, bro. Like the cops is trying to eat, bro. I was in.
Well, see that. Yeah.
Like I
was.
That
plays in. I'm sorry. That plays. I'm gonna get off the phone because I know you got other callers, but that plays into my whole idea of we got to open it up. We need competition. We need innovation. Those automated traffic lights and drones and who knows what other things, technologies or whatever we're missing out on. But if those cops, if they want to preserve their jobs, which most of them do, they just want to preserve their job, right? And they write tickets and got quotas and the blah, blah, blah. That's not really taking us forward. We got to, at some point, we got to move forward and ask ourselves, what are we missing out on?
But it just seems like, I think, again, I haven't traveled as much as Trekk, but you take scenarios like this one that just happened 2 days ago in Atlanta, where Rashard Brooks was fatally shot. He was drunk, right?
Right.
He took one of the officers' tasers and ran off, right?
Yes, he did.
Then he turns around and they just unload on him. Are you telling me a taser is a life-threatening situation for you, cop? You got a bulletproof vest on. He's 15 feet away. You know what I'm saying?
And you unload on him.
Come
on.
It's just we use too much lethal force for no reason in this country. No. And it seems to be kind of weighted or skewed toward the black community.
Come on.
Yeah.
I saw a video. This is the last thing, I promise. There was another video just to mock what the differences are. This white guy, he chased the police about 150 feet. You saw that? And then he got in his car. He rammed his car into the police car. And all the time, the police officers are yelling and screaming, "Please stop!" Blah 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 blah. Somebody said, "Come on, if that was a black guy, he would have been dead a long time ago." But this white guy did everything imaginable that you can think of.
He's trying to shoot the tires out the car so he can drive off.
Right. So come on, tell me, there's some issues, but yeah, you guys stay safe and I'll just listen I'll listen to you guys, okay?
All right, Monty. All right. Thanks for calling in, bro.
Thank you. Take care. You got it. Thank you. All right. Take care, Trekk. All right.
Yeah, man. I mean, just look at this video, guys. Now the guy's drunk. The guy was so drunk he fell asleep in the, I guess, fast food drive-through, right? And again, it just seems like in America, man, these cops just have such a short fuse when it comes to its citizens, and in particular, when it comes to black and brown people.
Again, it's one of those things, bro, of where it's how we're marketed in the popular narrative to the rest of the world. Our law enforcement is the worst thing since fucking, I don't know. And then we are like an endangered species. But I'm telling you, you go to some other places, bro, like watch a cop just straight walk up and smack somebody upside the head or whip them like with a whip. And no one is like, who's your supervisor? Where's your commanding officer? I'm going to the precinct. No, everybody running and doing what they're supposed to do to not get whipped or smacked upside the head, bro. Like, and that's in 2020 I'm talking. I'm not talking like 10, 15 years ago. I'm not talking 100 years ago. I'm talking 2020. That's what's going on now. I'm not saying our cops are the greatest thing since sliced bread. But the way the things are put in regards to perspective of us being in America and we're the home of the free and this is the land of democracy, the shit is all a PR smoke and mirrors game. If more people got outside of this damn country and really saw how things was going on in other places, bro, especially black people, they wouldn't have some of the like naive ass views they have on certain things, man. Like, you have no idea how frustrated I get, bro, when I be talking to people about stuff. And then when I say shit, it's just like, oh, like, you've actually been places. Yes, I've been places. And I get very well what the sliding scale spectrum is for how we live here and how things work outside of the U.S.
Yeah.
This shit, though, this is fucking annoying, bro.
It is. Like, it's annoying, bro. I'm getting sick of it. And you would think in the climate we're in, the cop would have just, I'm not saying the guy shouldn't have gotten, beat up a little bit, tackled or whatever. Or they have his car. They can easily file a report. He wasn't in the right. I'm not saying that, but did he need to go home in a body bag because he ran away from the police, and the police couldn't tase him properly? So you pull out your firearm and shoot him in the back? It's ridiculous, bro.
Like,
shit is ridiculous, man.
Yo, you seen Dave Chappelle's 846?
I didn't get a chance to see it yet. Been seeing Twitter go wild on it.
So I'm gonna let you watch that, and we're gonna catch up and talk.
Yeah, we'll have a conversation about that maybe next weekend on Off the Chain. We'll talk about Dave Chappelle's new stand-up. But so again, back to the whole defunding thing. You saw in Minneapolis, the city council is voting to possibly replace police department with community-led models. Now this is a year off because they're going to go through this whole analysis for a year or so and do a whole research on this approach. What is your thoughts on Minneapolis trying to take that direction, taking steps in that direction?
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. And why I'm gonna sit all the way over here in the DMV and go, this is bullshit, is because when you read into the article and it talks about how it's a year-long study, it's like what the government does when they're like, oh, we're gonna do a blue ribbon commission to study a problem, and then we're gonna compile a report. This doesn't mean that once the report is done or once the commission or the study is done, we will enact some level of change within a reasonable time. Reasonable time being 6 months, under 12 months for sure. It is not saying anything like that. There's no indication of what the parameters, the scope, or the mandate of this year-long study committee is. All they did was symbolic bullshit to buy time and police and
make people and hope it blows over so people forget. That's all it is,
bro.
Yep, that's all it is.
And then on some real, for like the things that I'm paying attention to, and what I thought, okay, I'm gonna dual hat this, right? From the standpoint of the politician side, people have a relatively short memory span, right? And then if you pace something out far enough and you give periodic updates on the quote progress of it, you can then appease people in a manner that way. But what I honestly think would happen, if you look at 12 months down the road from right now, and I'm assuming that it started like maybe July or June, maybe it started then. If not, and they say like, oh, well, it's not going to start till January. So now you're talking about who the hell is going to remember this in 2022 or 2023? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I just think, man, we in America, we've become so polarized and it's so unhealthy, man. You've got defund the police movements, which I think is extreme left and just retarded. And then you've got extreme right ideologies spinning around. And it's just like, what happened to being a moderate and having some balance in all of this stuff, man? I just don't understand why there has to be these extremes. I don't see us fixing it, and especially with the 2020 elections coming up. I was telling my buddy, it doesn't matter who wins, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be civil unrest because both sides are so polarized. Whichever wins, the losing side is going to be, they're going to go crazy.
So let me say it to you this way. Let me frame it this way. What makes you think the goal is to fix something? Like, because again, if we look at this example in regards to this whole committee thing and like how it's being pushed out for 12 months, that is not an effective strategy with defined tactics, methods in order to fix something. That is a symbolic appeasement PR move. This is why I constantly say things are about marketing and PR, because we see it in varying ways, whether it be on the government side or whether it be on the private sector side, right? And also, I will say though, and from the standpoint of like the politician, this was a smart move. Like other mayors, other governors, other city elected officials, they are watching each other now going, okay, like, all right, what is that person over there doing in Oklahoma? Okay, what's that person doing in New York? Okay, the mayor said this over there. Okay, that person's the comptroller for blah, blah, blah. How are they dealing with the funding situation for? And how about this one? Anybody hear how much talk is going on about how the taxes are going to go up next year? Nobody really talking about how the taxes are going to really get screwed over next year, city level and federal level. That's not a part of, but that's not a part of the, like, let's push it into a narrative to get people upset about whoever you're going to vote for. Because I can definitely see that being a part of the campaign. Like, hey, I promise you I'm going to keep taxes reasonable. Not I'm going to lower them. They're going to be reasonable. Somebody's going to run with that line.
Yeah. Then, we got Joy in the chat room with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat. She says the issue with reallocation of police funding is all the people at the table are white. Include us in the decisions that impact us. What do you think about that? I mean, somewhat. I think that's the case for sure. And also, I think you need to, unfortunately, you have to have more black people policing black people. That's another situation that I think needs to happen. I don't know how you do that legally without discriminating, because that's an issue of discrimination. You don't want to discriminate and not allow white cops to work where they want to work. I don't think that's fair either. So I don't know how you do that where you at least have more black cops policing their people, because they at least know a little bit and can have an understanding of how to handle a black person.
All right, how about this
cases?
One?
What do you think?
Let's throw this one out here. You want to work in this police department?
Live in the city. Live in the city where you police.
Yeah,
that's how you do it.
You gotta live here for like 2 years.
Minimum. That's how you do it.
Your year don't end until after your 5th year.
Yep.
You still a rookie when you under 5 years.
Yep.
And then your pay scale is gonna jump up after your 2nd year. So you got to live in the city for at least 2 years if you want this job.
There you go. That's how you solve it, and not make it a black-white thing. You make every police. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a great way to do it. Let's get this caller though. They've been waiting. Caller on the line. It's your boy Crypto Blood and Trekk. Who's calling in?
Man, it's Default, man.
Default.
I was calling in because it's good, man. I was just calling in because Trekk is hitting on something that I talk about more in private than in public, because that's the game. And when this whole COVID stuff started popping off, we started talking about this a long time ago. I was like, this is the end of the game. What I mean by that is all the games that the media plays, politicians plays, like the role that they have an authority role. A perceived authority role, like they know the answers, they always get everything right. And what's coming undone is, I think people are starting to realize, like, they don't know what they're doing. And that's why I was calling it the end game, because what's happening is, and it's going to keep happening, is collectively people are going to lose trust in the system. And so the social unrest and, all this what's going on, none of this is really shocking to me. I was calling it when the whole, pandemic was just starting off, because once you see like how the government is not responding to the situation and how they implement all these economic policies that went the money right to the rich, majority went to the rich, and they're not dealing with the issues, because as Trekk said, that they're not really, like he alluded, they're not trying to solve any of these issues, because that's the game. The game is to, make it seem like we're like, we give you rhetoric, we give you symbolism, like, oh yeah, we're going to, it's like this whole defund the police thing. It doesn't get to the core root of the issues. And this is what I was saying last week as well, was, this is why I don't get hype over, seeing white people on the street protesting for Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, because you can protest all you want, but the issue is economics, and nobody's addressing those issues. But it's all a game not to address those issues, because that's the game. That's the game, and that's why Black people are behind the 8 ball in every facet. When you look at statistics, economically, because it's all designed to extract wealth from you. It's all designed to keep you, you know, basically a modern day slavery. You have no wealth.
Yeah, it's designed to extract wealth from the 99% period, right? That's the system is designed that way. But we get the biggest brunt of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
I just want to add. I want to add on to try. Like I don't know if he read this. It's called Plato's Allegory. It's in the Republic. Honestly, I think everybody should check that out because honestly, there's a lot of emotional manipulation going on. They manipulate you by identity. They manipulate you by, you know, nationality. Like there's multiple ways what you like, what you identify as. Mostly what you identify as. And they put you in these boxes. And you were saying that everything is so politicized. And it's like that by design. Because they know how you think. They know how to market to you. They know how you're going to respond. So let's play this game like, okay, you know, the issue this week is this. And then, you know, we're going to be outraged. People are going to be on social media, you know, expressing their feelings. I mean, that really doesn't do anything. But that's the game. It's like you got the only freedom you have is expression in the U.S. You don't have real freedoms, and especially if you're black. You don't like you just have the freedom to express yourself. But even if you express yourself, depending on who you are or where you're at, that can get you killed. So I just like I said last week. Go ahead.
What is that, Trekk? Go ahead, Trekk.
Or it could be cool now, and then like 2 years from now, all of a sudden that's a social faux pas, and then you get raked through the coals, what you said 2-3 years ago, or when you was like 21 and now you like 37. Like,
hey,
exactly.
Default,
right now.
Default, I want to get your opinion on. This is kind of off the topic, but this Band-Aid move. What did you hear about this? I tweeted about this a couple of days ago.
More symbolism.
Yeah,
it's just more similar. Like everybody, you were saying how all these companies are coming out and saying like, oh, we're gonna, you know, we support Black lives, but again, the underlying conditions, the reason why, you know, Alton Sterling, George Floyd, what was the guy in New York? I mean, there's so many people. Like a lot of those situations where, you know, there were like the guy that was in New York, Eric Garner. He got tripped out. He was because he was getting harassed by this cop all the time because he was selling cigarettes. George Floyd, he had a supposedly, I don't even know if that's true or not because you don't know what to trust with the media. Is he had a counterfeit 20. The Alton Sterling dude in Louisiana, he was selling CDs. Like a lot of these, you know, black men are getting killed.
Orlando, the guy that was in Minnesota, you know, had a valid CPL license to carry his gun and get shot up in front of his girlfriend and daughter.
That's
nothing wrong. Did
a lot
nothing
of these,
wrong. That was the coldest one that I've seen in a long time.
A lot of these black men that are getting killed is mostly because of their economic status.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see
and,
that.
And none of these groups that are chanting and doing whatever.
So let me ask you this,
I don't see any
default. Do you think that even though all this is happening and we see a lot of, you know, I don't know, you know, it's just kind of taking our attention away from certain things. Do you think that some of this stuff is going to stick? Like seeing companies like Amazon and Starbucks and Uber Eats get behind it. And we know it's probably not genuine, but we've never seen something like this happen before. Do you think it's going to be something that now these corporations are going to be cognitive of black people and their plight, for lack of a better word?
No.
I think so,
again,
man.
It goes back to marketing.
I think so, man.
No, it goes back to marketing. Like I said, if you want to, I'm going to let you get in, but if you want to change these situations, you got to change the economic situation.
But that's
I
what
haven't
I think,
seen anybody.
Like, okay, the Sephora scenario where they're going to allocate 15% of their shelves to black-owned businesses. That's an economic move.
You need that on a massive scale.
Okay.
You need that on a government enforced scale.
Okay.
And there has to be a large transfer. Well, go ahead.
Okay.
So for like I don't know all the details, but what you just said was they're gonna take 15% of what? Of their
shelves? No, their shelves. They're allocating 15% of their shelving space for black-owned businesses. So any cosmetic businesses owned by minorities, black people, they're going to start giving that shelf space to them.
Okay, so now we get into what are the parameters to define a black-owned business? Does it mean I have a multiple party founded company and one person is black? Do they have to be, quote, full black? Are they American black? Are they African, like Nigerian or Ghanaian black? Are they European black? What are we saying?
How do you pick? Like, black people are from all over, bro. Like, that's the problem with like reparations and stuff. Like, who is qualified as black? Like,
so
that
here's
stuff
where
gets complicated, bro.
I get it. I ran into the weeds real fast just now.
Yeah.
Where I'm going with it
I don't know, man.
It's one of those things of all they did was make a PR statement saying we're gonna allocate X amount of shelf space. Now, mind you, if I walk into the store and I see that you have 4 shelves, is 15% of one shelf space in regards to a whole aisle, is that just, let's say, 6 feet on a bottom shelf? If I have it broken down that the shelf is like 10 feet long, I'm throwing out really whack numbers. I know somebody's out there thinking about the numbers, but understand, what does that actually look like when I walk into the store? Is that the bottom shelf that you're going to put all of that stuff on and be like, look, we got them right
man.
there?
It's a start, bro. That's all I'm saying. Like, I've never seen anything like this in my life from corporations doing
that's
this,
the game.
Recognizing some things that need to be recognized.
But that's the game. That's the game. They just want to quell. They want to quell the upright. Like, they want to quell people's voices. Like, they just want to. They don't want people out, questioning stuff. They want to make it seem like they're doing something. And
here's the thing,
you're
Default.
not
When
changing
we
the
use
structure.
that word, we use that word "they," right? Like, it's some like cabal that just gets in a dark room and says, "Okay, we're gonna have them do this," and then everyone just lines up under them. All the corporations line up under them, and I don't think it's that monolithic. I don't think it's set up like. I think it's more complex than that. It is more. Who is they?
It's more complex, but I would say it's the capital class, like the people that have actual capital. Like, a lot of people, when you say business to me, like, okay, they're allocating shelves for what I don't even know what the company is. But let's just say they're clothing in the clothing industry. When I think of a business, I don't think of the person that's selling the branding. A real clothing business is a manufacturer who owns the means of production. And that's why everybody that says, I always hear this all the time, you guys support black business, you guys support black business. And it's like, black people, and I'm talking about native black people in America, don't own the means of production of anything. So you don't really have business.
Yo, I've been saying that since last year about the whole thing of the value chain and understanding where you sit in the value chain. If you are at the bottom end of the value chain, it doesn't matter how many, quote, business storefronts or online, whatever's you have. If you are not at the manufacturing level of putting the materials together, or you are not at the other level higher up on that, of where you're the one coming up with the chemicals that make the material, you still a bottom feeder.
You gotta start somewhere, fellas. We are like 99% consumers in the black community. So just to get, we gotta take steps, in my opinion. You can't just jump in and you get what I'm saying?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I get you.
Let's get 10 pound in. Let me get 10 pound in here. 10 pound. What's going on, brother?
In the gym? Cause you look like you get diesel right there, bro. I see them arms.
Hey, yo, about y'all been talking up a storm, bro. It's good. Hey, seriously, y'all talking about something. Kabbalah, some underground secret society.
It look like you in the cabal, underground secret society.
Y'all need to be talking about the Bilderbergs, man.
The bunker right there, yo.
You are in the Bilderberg bunker right now. So what's your thoughts about everything we've been talking about, 10 Pound?
I think that Black society right now is at a precipice of being appeased. That's about it, ultimately. But I don't think it's going to be a meaningful appeasement. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, hey, here's double your stimulus. Sorry about slavery. This isn't going to be like here's some guaranteed UBI because, of course, what we've done to help you and also how you've helped us pretty much achieve a sci-fi reality. No, none of that. Because we all know robotics and AI right around the corner. Everybody know that, right? So, I don't know, man. Society right now is headed towards like a medieval, feudalistic style. You know what I mean? Where like you have the haves and the have-nots. And most people, they're pretty much like, trying to get unemployment and pretty much fucking sitting in food bank lines, man. Like everything's going AWOL.
Yeah. I mean, when they starting to look out for black people, it must be over.
Yeah.
Yo, you see what 45
It must
doing?
be the end of the world, end of the road. With they're looking the fit. What they call it, the 15% pledge. That's what it's called. If you guys want to find out what companies are participating in this pledge, I think it's a good thing. Y'all too critical of it. God, this is good.
All right, how about this? What is the percentage they are going to take for you to be on that 15% of the shelf space? Like when you make your sale, how much of the sale goes back to the actual owner of that company, and how much of it is Safari taking? Like, how about that? Like, is that an allowable question?
All questions are allowable. I just feel like it's with black people. I find it's never enough. That's what I find with a lot of us. It's never enough.
I want $1 trillion. Okay, I'll be honest with y'all. I want $1 trillion. They better give me $1 trillion. You motherfuckers ain't getting $1 trillion. I want $1 trillion. Bruh,
yo,
they talking about, oh hey, we're gonna just give $4.2 trillion to these big banks and big businesses. Hey, I just want $1 trillion. Come on, bro. Hook me up with $1 trillion.
Hey, it's funny you say that because me and my buddy earlier were talking about how much it would cost to just give all working class individuals $10,000.
I know, right?
And it's only like $1.5 trillion, bro.
That ain't that much.
So
they'll never do that.
Break that down to, they'll. I don't know. They may, bro. They may not do it to just black people, but I think they're gonna get desperate enough because this economy is done. We all understand that. It's over.
It's over.
There's no way to bounce back from this because we got the second wave of this virus coming. Everybody forgot about the virus. I haven't. Second wave this winter, this fall is gonna be ugly.
So you're gonna have the second wave of the virus,
right?
And then you're gonna have the second wave of unemployment that's gonna hit, and it's gonna hit white collar workers, and that's when people are really gonna start being like, "Oh shit!"
Well, it's already hitting white collar. That's why they're conscious about what's going on with this Justin Floyd thing. If everyone was working, this is why I keep telling people the catalyst to this awakening, if you want to call it, quote unquote, is the fact that all of America is under stress. Their jobs, they don't know if that the future of their job security is under question. It's just not a black thing. Everyone's being affected. So when you have this situation happen, I think it's a lot of pent up energy. And why you're seeing all this protesting and stuff, because like I said, you guys know this. The George Floyd thing was not the worst we've seen on camera.
Oh no, it wasn't.
It was by far. It's not the worst we've seen on camera. So what's different? The only thing, the common denominator, is that we have a pandemic and we've been cooped up in these homes. We've been stressed about our employment and all of that, man. I'm talking about everybody. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's not just.
Go ahead, Default.
I was gonna say that it's not just that there's no work. There's no distraction. There's no NBA.
No distraction.
There's
right. No NFL.
There's nothing.
Right.
Yo.
So anything that pops off, everybody's aware.
What'd you say, Trekk?
I said WWE sucks without the audience. I seen a clip the other day. I was like, what the hell is this?
All these sports gonna suck without an audience, man. That just defeats the purpose. That X factor, you need that. So it's just gonna be a big ass scrimmage.
Oh, yo, can we jump into? I know this is a total sideways thing, but the joint about the truck drivers.
Yeah, so let's talk about the truck drivers, guys. This is out of Zero Hedge. Truck drivers reject delivery to cities with defunded or disbanded police. CDL Life actually did a poll. I don't know if this is on Twitter or not. It may have been in their actual app, but 79% of the individuals who took this poll, these are truck drivers, said they would not. They're not gonna deliver to those defunded, disbanded police department cities. What do you want to say about that, Trekk?
So hold on one second. Yo, somebody look up for me how many truck drivers are in the U.S. And if you know anything about truck driving, I used to be a truck driver. I used to do tri-state out of New York, so like Jersey, Philly, Connecticut, stuff like that. I used to work out of the piers, right? And when I read this article, I was like, wait, so all the truck drivers took this questionnaire, was like, oh, I'm not gonna do it. And then when I looked at the number, I was like, wait, only 1,000 people? Bruh, 1,000 people ain't nothing in trucking. Like nothing as a number of like, if you said my company had 1,000 employees, you talking about like, you like New England Motor Freight, or you like CRL, or like, and those are like trucking companies that go across like East Coast, West Coast, like North, South, the whole thing. My point is that it doesn't differentiate if these are company employees or people who have their own authority. And when you have your own authority in trucking, it means you can say, nah, I'm not taking that load. Nah, you need to put another like grand on that payout for me to carry that. Like, for me to even connect to that load, you need to put another grand on it. Okay. And then the other part being is, again, like the company that did it, I don't know that company in particular, but I know that there's definitely some nuances to trucking to be like, oh, we polled 1,000 or so, or we had 1,000 people respond to a poll. Because I don't know what the full number was, but I'm telling you, 1,000 people answering from the trucking industry is nothing, bro, as a number. So that's not the average truck driver's sentiment. And if you actually talk to truck drivers who like know about how shit was playing out in like, what was that, the 70s, or I think it was when they had this whole big push to deunionize trucking, and certain companies got to still stick with it, but like X amount of the trucking industry got deunionized. And when like, for the folks who are old enough to remember back then, because they was doing the whole thing, like it was real back then. You talking about if you crossing lines, people shooting at you, you shooting back. Like I've heard all types of stories on how it was back then. If this situation of, oh, we're not gonna go to that city because they don't have any law enforcement, the city is not going to automatically just not have some level or some kind of policing. We just read in the other story that they're talking about a year out.
No, it's not gonna happen. Yeah,
is that exactly my point? So and this one, I'm gonna say I'm knocking Zero Hedge on this, and I usually like X amount of the stuff that they write out.
That one's kind of like clickbait on that one.
It's just like, come on, bro. Like this ain't going down tomorrow. It ain't gonna happen next week. I honestly do believe though we will have another issue within the whole supply chain thing, but it's not necessarily going to be in relation to truckers saying, oh, I'm not going there because it's like a defunded police zone. Like it's not gonna be that. I think there's a whole nother reason behind that. But yeah, I read it and I was like, there's too many little things that run in my head because I used to be a truck driver. It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, Default, man, appreciate the call in. I'll see you in the chat room.
Man. Yo, Default, man. Yo, bro, you should be watching a little bit more documentaries, man. Definitely, like, look up the people that actually run our society, man. Like, they out there, bro. Like, yo, even
on it, bro. What you talking about?
I'm just letting you know, like, it is what it is, man. People just need to get hip to, like, who the real ruling class of the society is. You know, it's pretty much blatantly out in the open nowadays, if you think about it. Like, you can go to opensecrets.com and see some of the political leaders and who they've sold their souls to, who they've sold out to, the corporations involved.
You gonna cry?
Wait, me?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna cry, bro.
You got real sentimental there. I was waiting for a tear to drop down there, big fella.
I'm just saying, man. Like, it is what it is, fellas. Like, hey, yo, I'm not worried about a damn thing, man.
Well, we know you in a bunker right? Oh, man. Trekk, man, any last words for today, my friend?
What's her name? Cinny Minnie? Cinny Minnie. She said, like, all cash is green. Do you know how much actual paper money is in circulation in the real world? It's like less than 25%.
Well, I think she was just saying, like, figuratively speaking, like, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, here's what I'm gonna say. Places are opening back up. Y'all need to start stacking up on things that are gonna work to help you improve yourself and be sustainable for the longevity. Like, start reading more. Start, learning how to be self-dependent. Like, I'm just saying, that's my look on it. And just the things that I am paying attention to. And I got to work on myself. I'll be honest with it. I do have to definitely work on some things, but I hope everybody stays safe. I hope everybody, just stay safe and, like, work on this time to improve you and your situation. That's it.
Yeah, 10 Pound, what you got to say, bro?
Man, I think that everybody needs to stay happy and healthy. Keep your morale up. Everybody play safe when you're crypto. A dollar cost average, do your best to stack sats. It gets you the Satoshis, man. That's what it is.
Yeah, I brought up the tornado.cash site again that you recommended last feed.
Yeah,
also
bro, I was listening in. I heard it all.
Okay, yeah. Have you used smartmixer.io?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm about to check it out, though.
Yeah, check it out. Let me know your thoughts on that. Again, he recommended tornado.cash as well, guys. Clean your coins. Get your privacy back. That's the whole key. That's the whole point of this crypto game, is to have some level of privacy and anonymity. I think it's very important. We're missing that nowadays. We've gotten away from that big time. And leverage that technology, people. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. And click that bell. I've got the articles we talked about pinned in this video if you want to take a look at them as well. We out of here, people. Holla!
Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum,
Yo,
stack my coin. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, cash. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, cash.
Smoking on that crippy got me cliff.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Surfing through the city while them chips fry.
Fucking thing sucks! We'll do it live.
I know the way we juiced up.